Hi, I'm Irene with Osprey Photo Workshops and Tours. This is part 6 in a series of programs in wildlife photography. This time I'm going to talk about backgrounds and camera placement. Backgrounds are an important consideration when composing an image. Distracting, busy backgrounds will pull the viewer's attention away from the subject. Here we have great action between two sandhill cranes. However, the birds are lost in the background behind them. It's distracting. We have a little bear there. He was photographed in North Carolina. However, the light was a little brighter than I would have liked. And unfortunately, the background leaves are contrasty. They're distracting away from the bear. I would have much preferred a softer light, and if the bear was further away from those leaves, so the background was smoother, and I had more separation. In the case of the two images on the right, they were shot on the same day. The lower image was shot when the sun was just coming up. It hit the fox, but it didn't hit the background. About 30 minutes later, I took the second picture of this tufted titmouse. Unfortunately, the light was high enough that it hit the leaves behind the titmouse and created a background that was distracting. Here's some examples of non-distracting smooth backgrounds, and we'll be talking about how to get to that type of background in a few minutes. However, I want to talk about the bottom image. The image of the ducks. It was shot with a telephoto lens, which has a narrow angle of view. This means when I was first looking at this situation, I had a background I didn't like. It was distracting. But by shifting my position just slightly, I was able to put a shadowed background behind the ducks. This created a more impactful image. Here's some tips to create that smooth, out of focus, non-distracting background. Get closer to your subject so the background is comparatively further away. Shoot with a lens at its maximum aperture for a shallower depth of field. In other words, pick a low f number. Shoot with a faster lens, one with a wider than normal maximum aperture, allowing for more limited depth of field. Pick a shooting angle so that the background is as far away as possible from the subject. One of the things you hear more often is photograph at eye level with the subject. Low tripod, beanbag on the ground with the camera on it, lie down with the camera on the ground. This creates a more intimate picture, less body distortion, better separation of the subject from the background, and an out of focus smooth background because it's distant. But none of these tips guarantee success. You could be out on a day that's very sunny with high contrast, leaving bright spots and deep shadows throughout the image. And no matter where you move, you're not going to get a good shot. Just don't take the photo. Wait for better lighting or choose a different subject under better conditions. I want you to take note of the cute picture below. That was shot at eye level. It was shot in South Texas. And I just love that piece of vegetation going across the nose of that baby javelina. Shooting from eye level is not always the best. The image is here. Shooting upward was a better choice. In the case of the horse, there were distractions behind the horse at eye level. So I had to move in a little bit closer and shoot up at the horse. I love the funny tuft of hair on its head against that blue background. With the bighorn sheep, when they were lower on the mound of dirt, this was shot in the Badlands of South Dakota, they were hard to see because they blended in with the background soil. I waited until the sheep moved up the ridge before shooting at an upward angle, capturing the image where both sheep were clearly visible. Shooting down on a subject can be a good idea as well, where you can capture reflections and patterns. In the case of these three images, we have some very nice reflections. They're very sharp. I didn't cut off part of the reflection. That's a good thing. What you need is a day with little wind and little water movement. You don't want currents. You don't want tidal changes affecting the surface of the water. You want it like glass. In the case of the prairie rattler, I was more concerned with the patterns and the triangular head of the rattler than the whole rattler itself. So I shot down on it. Slight changes in the height of the camera can drastically change backgrounds. So just move around with your camera Select a camera angle that best gives you the background that you want. In the case of the horses from Assateague, I had a washed out white sky. I wasn't pleased with the color image of the photo, so I processed it as black and white. This image I like a lot better. High key photography can sometimes help you with background problems. With this image, I purposely overexposed the photo, and I also took several other exposures at different settings. I picked the best. I altered the image slightly in post-processing with the goal of creating a bright, airy, simplified image with subtle light tones, a white background, and just a touch of color on the birds. I try to explore all possible shooting angles. With this diamondback turtle, I could have shot down on it and captured the patterns on the shell. But I decided I wanted a more up-close and personal portrait, so I laid on the ground in front of the turtle, waited until he put his head out, and I took the photo, concentrating on keeping the eye sharp. The bottom line is, I think he has a really sweet face. I love this image. The two lower images were shot in South Texas. These are ribbon snakes. The image on the left is a perfectly good image. He's coming out of the water, his head's up, we got a reflection. However, I wanted something different, something unique. So I wanted to take the picture from the snake's perspective. I laid down on the ground. I carefully focused on his eye. As he moved forward, I continued to focus on his eye until I got this shot, and I'm very happy with it. Out of focus foreground can be a problem. It can distract away from the subject, for instance, in the case of the puffin. It can cut off the feed of subjects in the case of the turkey and the little shorebird there. I would have been much happier if that shorebird was up on a ridge of sand as opposed to where it is. However, there's exceptions to everything. Out of focus foregrounds can work. For instance, this nearly transparent out of focus foreground in front of the roadrunner combined with that blurred background helped isolate the bird and framed it. I want to just tell you just a brief story about it. I was lying on the ground and apparently I presented no threat to the bird, so he walked towards me. In later presentations, I'm going to discuss how to approach animals in a way that they feel comfortable and accepting of your presence in the field. This is all a matter of good ethics. Eyes are the windows to the soul, so they say. You really have to have sharp eyes on your subject. If the eyes aren't sharp, the rest of the image is not going to appear sharp. I like to have a highlight in the eye that pulls the viewer's attention into the picture. The shot below of the butterfly was shot with a macro lens. It's close focusing lens, it's very sharp edge to edge, and has high magnification, but it has a limited depth of field in terms of just millimeters. It's important, however, then to place the face of the lens parallel to the surfaces of interest. And in this case, I definitely wanted the eye sharp, and I also wanted to capture the patterns of color on the wings of this particular butterfly. Eye contact sets mood. It's engaging, it's suggestive, and sometimes it can add a humorous element to the picture, as with this little red-eyed tree frog. Eyes often hint a connection between you and your subject, which is something I like. Let's take a look at the two pictures at the bottom of the frame. The one on the left, that fox looks threatening. It looks like I don't want to approach him. The one on the right, however, looks rather friendly. And he's got that look in his eye that, I'm a sly fox. With the eyes, I try to avoid having something crossing them, like a piece of grass or a branch. In the case of the kittiwake, I had to wait a long time for that bird to move into a position where the grasses were not crossing the eye. That was the same case with this bald eagle below. Instead of grasses, it was a matter of branches, and I had to have him move just right to get that picture. This image gives you the illusion that it was shot at eye level, but it wasn't. It was photographed with a telephoto lens at some distance away from the subject. Because the line of sight from that telephoto lens to the subject was nearly horizontal, At that distance, the image appears to be shot at a lower angle than it actually is. And in this case, it's suggesting some nice direct eye contact between me and the fox. That's the end of this presentation. The next one will be next month. Take a look at the upper part of the image. That's my website. Please go check it out. It lists Zoom programs that are available for camera clubs. There's blogs. There's my schedule. The next topic is going to be lenses. I'm going to talk about their characteristics, which ones to choose in which situations. If you look below, there's a QR code. If you click on it or take a picture of it, it'll take you to a page where you can sign up for my free newsletter. As I mentioned, free. It comes out about every month or every 2 months. It lists a number of things, including my upcoming programs, some photo tips, some great images. And with that, I'm going to leave you all. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you in a month's time when I talk about lenses.